made it to the inaugural Core Volunteer Training. This first lesson of the cycle is really set up just to do two things: to welcome everyone, to help kind of onboard people with Zoom, and to show you around our website and our sister companion website, Community. I'm going to go over the agenda in a little bit, but just a quick background. So my name is Brent Cease. I'm down here in Dallas, Texas. Had the chance to talk with several of you right beforehand about a lot of the impacts that Houston, group leaders and groups are still facing. I've been volunteering with CCL since 2011. Been a group leader and state coordinator, I guess, a regional coordinator, and recently kind of transitioned into this role of helping with our volunteer education program, including this core volunteer training. And I'm super excited. I'll stop introducing myself because tonight's all about you. So let's find out about each other here in just a moment. Really, our goals for tonight are to help volunteers understand the purpose of core volunteer training. We're going to do a quick review of that. We're also going to do a quick review of how to navigate CCL's main website as well as Community to find the information and resources that you need as a volunteer, especially as you're getting to know what CCL can offer. We also want you to be able to utilize especially Community as a tool for communicating with larger groups throughout the country and outside of yourself. And tonight's going to also help jumpstart the process of thinking about your own action plans. Every week's going to be different. We're going to go over the schedule in a little bit, but we really would like you to think about some specific steps you'd like to take and how a partner, as well as this framework of this series, can help support you get there. And then lastly, as always, we always want your feedback. So throughout tonight, if there's anything that you see that can be improved, any creative ideas you have, definitely feel free to chime in. I'm going to review a lot of places where you can also find out how to give that feedback online. But without further ado, let's jump into tonight's agenda. We're going to do introductions in just a little bit, and then we're going to follow that with a chance to overview the actual main website. I'm not going to spend too much time on either of these. I'm actually going to have us break out in some small groups and discuss a lot of your own interests in each of these. So that'll be followed by Q&A. We'll then have a chance to do some community overview of kind of what are the main features of CCL Community, how to navigate around there and find what you're looking for. And then that'll follow with another Q&A section. And then lastly, our inaugural partner action plan. So really, before anything else, one thing that I think would be really important to address is just really, what's the purpose of core volunteer training? I know that you've probably seen the email, you probably saw the description on the main website or Community. But if I had to distill the actual kind of impetus for what we're offering here with this, weekly program, again, all of it's voluntary. You don't have to tune into every week to get something out of it. But I would use three words. I would use primarily the word relational. I think that we live in an era, especially as climate advocates, that can often feel isolating and can often feel hard to plug into a larger movement and know where to get involved, especially if you happen to be new to an organization. So I think that this training really is trying to provide a relational to connect with others, whether they are also just joining like this call is providing, or your groups at large. I also hope that these calls are really informational. I hope that they provide information and are directed towards your specific questions. I know that rather than kind of listening to a long webinar for an hour, what I'm trying to do with each of these is to make them much more interactive, much more focused towards what you want to learn, and much more oriented towards getting your feedback as new volunteers on how we can be doing a better job. And then lastly, I want them to be motivational too. I want them to inspire. I want them to help you feel like you can make a difference, that your voice does matter, and to really leave you feel empowered every week to make a difference in a new way that perhaps you were really hoping to find out more about by joining this call. So those are the three words that I would describe, again, this training as the core purpose: relational, informational, and motivational. No, I am not a poet, as you can tell by my poor rhyme schemes. But looking ahead really quick, so, again, tonight is the inaugural run through. We're talking websites. Next week's going to be talking about explaining the science of climate change. We're going to have our very own, one of our very own climate scientists, Dr. Kirtland Turner out of California, really walk through some of the basics of that. We're going to have our own legislative team in DC walk us through Congress the next week. We're going to dive deep into fee and dividend with one of the foremost experts on the policy on the 26th. We're going to do lobby training and actually do some practice small group scenarios on the 3rd, social media use on the 10th, writing effective letters to the editor on the 17th, best tabling practices and presentations on the 24th, Halloween night, in case you haven't booked your costume yet, we're going to all dress up as endorsement teams and learn about how critical grass tops are for this movement, and really highlighting the case to connect our local business leaders with our members of Congress to move forward on climate legislation. Then we'll have a chance to work on communication on both sides of the aisle. We'll take a break for the Congressional Education Day and then return right before Thanksgiving to talk about how we can improve our communication skills as well as our organizational skills. And then we'll end the very last week of November with actually a call with Marshall Saunders, CCL's founder, so that all of you can have a chance to really learn from him and have a chance to also get to know and celebrate your own accomplishments as well as share your action plans. So that's really the schedule. And without further ado, I'll keep us updated every week on this and try to even breeze through it quicker. What I'd like us to do is actually break up into small groups and have the chance to really learn from each other. And we're going to be using breakout rooms a lot throughout this series. And they're pretty basic. All that's going to happen is in a minute, you're going to see a little screen if you're calling in on your computer. If you're on the phone, you'll automatically be added, so you don't even have to press anything. And for tonight, since there is 15 of us, I'm going to break us up into 5 teams of 3. And I'd like you to just practice this inaugural run through for breakout rooms with a really simple activity. All you need to do is share who you are, your name, your background, your city, and what brought you here tonight. And again, CCL is an organization that emphasizes deep listening skills as a way to connect and really build relationships. And this is a wonderful way to practice and jump right into that. See you back here in a little bit. Thank you, Dee. I think for the next section, what I'm just going to do is kind of describe what our next focus is. So again, tonight's call is going to be a little bit different because we're focused rather on just having a 15-minute front-end presentation. What I've done is divide it up into 3 kind of 5-minute segments and then have time for small group discussion, especially as we're getting up and running, just to get to know each other. But kind of the whole point of tonight's focus is really navigating our websites, right? Where can you find what you're looking for on both the main site as well as community? And so what I'm doing right here is posting, the main website. If everyone wants to visit citizensclimatelobby.org, you can easily kind of type that into your browser. I've typed that into the chat window. If you need help with that, you can just copy and paste it. But I'm going to spend 5 quick minutes. I'm just going to show you broad brush strokes of where to find things, and then we'll group back together as a large group and discuss any questions that still are lingering. So with that, here is our main website page. You can kind of see the home page right here. You can clearly see that we've got several ways of joining and getting more involved by clicking on some of these green overview buttons along the main frame. But the main section that I'm really going to be focusing on is up here across the top bar. And I'm just going to go across about 4 of these tonight and highlight what each of them holds without really going into each of the links, because I'm guessing that many of you have done many of these on your own already. So the About section is, kind of the orientation of where to find out more information about CCL. If you're interested in finding out about our background, about where to locate chapters, about our core values, like we expressed even with our nonpartisan emphasis. If you'd like to even find out more specifically about Marshall, that can be found kind of in the foundation story of CCL. I know we went over that in our climate advocate training. The other great thing that I think is really key in highlighting is not only what we do, but our accomplishments. If you're looking for data as far as what we've generated this year, last year, specific municipal endorsements, whatever that might be, all of that can be found in accomplishments. Again, a review of the levers of political will, as well as our board members. We have both an advisory board that has people like Dr. James Hansen, as well as George Schultz and Sheeling Sue, actually, who's going to be our call speaker this weekend, Catherine Hayhoe. If you want to find out more about who's on that board, that can be found there, as well as staff and regional coordinator contacts. And I'll pause for questions again at the very end. But another quick review, I know we cover this as well in climate advocate training, but if you really want to dive in deep to some of the policy analysis that's been done around carbon fee and dividend and the economic implications of what would happen should it be enacted, this climate solutions tab with all of these links is your next best bet. So again, the basics are covered here. You're already past that, but specifically finding out about what REMI is saying and the modeling and the assumptions that are built into that model can be found here. The household impact studies can be found here. I also will show you on Community where to find a couple of the other key studies, but those are the main two that we're highlighting in the main website here. You can also find a whole list of people who support CCL, both thought leaders as well as endorsement leads there under our climate solution. The next section that I'd love to highlight is take action. And so this is clearly how most people have already joined or found out initially about CCL. You can clearly join our intro call. You can join climate advocate training. Now you can join core volunteer training, whichever one is on tonight. Congratulations. But here's also where you can find not only information about, if you happen to be somebody that isn't close to a chapter, how you can get a presentation going in your area. You can also find out about upcoming regional conferences or even the upcoming Congressional Education Day. That's this image down here. You can see that's coming up in November. The registration on that is literally going to open up in just another couple of days on the 9th, I believe, for everyone. And so if you're interested in actually coming to DC this November and joining a kind of delegation of CCLers from around the country, that information is provided there. The dates for Congressional Education Day this year are the 12th through the 14th of November. And then there's a whole bunch of different action items too. So if you wanted to have help, if you haven't tweeted or called or written Congress yet on this issue, there's templates here. I'm guessing you found a lot of those already for other groups. But this is a really helpful way, not only for yourself, but if you have family members or friends that you'd like to plug in, a simple actionable would be just to link that kind of Write Congress link in an email, and it fills out their zip code and gets them accurately plugged in right from there. So we really try to make it easy to get the word out and massively kind of scale the outreach that we're doing. You can find out more about the Climate Solutions Caucus and the Republican climate resolutions as well right there. The last thing I'll highlight on the website, and again, I hope everyone's kind of just tooling around maybe on their own and looking at the website kind of with their own interaction as I'm talking here, is the very bottom black banner. I think this is kind of the most elusive part of the main website, and this is where we have also put a lot of our important to find links. So just by scrolling to the very bottom, this is kind of, I guess, nonprofit industry practice, you can find out the following. A lot of these hyperlinks are also connected here on the bottom. Some of the things that we haven't covered up on top are also here, including press releases and media packets, more media, our podcast, if you'd like to subscribe to Citizens Climate Radio or our actual kind of Podbean station, so it can just automatically download our YouTube station, other media pieces, you name it, our merch even, if you want to find out about that, or faith-based statements. All of that's available there. The other big thing on the website, if you just are scratching your head and you can't find something, or there's an outdated link, whatever it might be, we have a contact form that you can actually select by department. So we want to make sure that you can fill this out here in the middle and then have that sent off and addressed anything that you'd be curious about. Another kind of hidden thing that I'll just briefly highlight at the bottom, if you know anyone that's like high school or college age, we also actually offer internships throughout the country. So it's right here at the bottom, but internships are there. Our privacy in terms of service policies are there. That's really kind of the gist of our website. And again, I flew through that, but I'm guessing a lot of that was review. I just wanted to make sure that some of the main areas were covered. And what I'd like us to do actually now is get really into the meat of it. And this is, you can think of it almost as a focus group tonight. As new volunteers, what I'm really curious about are the following 3 questions. So again, if you can remember these 3, I'm going to break us up into our same kind of groups of 3 discussion breakout rooms. What do you really like? What's your favorite part? What do you think can be improved on the website? And what do you think is missing right now, especially as a new volunteer? What are you having a hard time finding? And with that, we'll see you again here in another 4 or 5 minutes. Let's jump over to community.citizensclimatelobby.com. You can also go to this short bit.ly link. Either of those are available. I'm just going to show you a couple of the main highlights, and then we'll break out again into groups to talk about things. So again, here's the home site for Community. You can see it's updated by tiles across the top. Often this is from the blog, but it also has other relevant news items as they come across. Below that is a whole series of tiles highlighting our main ways of getting involved and active. And below that is a page that's really helpful if you go to what's new on Community. That section, it's only half here, but you can see all the most recent pages that have been added, and they automatically populate. So if you're familiar, or you want to like catch up on the last 10 most recent page updates, you can click on that. And then the last thing also to highlight is the forum. I'll go into that in a little bit, but it's kind of like the generic chat room, if everyone remembers back in the early 2000s or 90s, just kind of before we really got into the Facebooks and MySpaces of our modern era. This is kind of the old chat room area that has thematic discussions going on across time. So let's go across the top. So again, that was the home page, but then if you see kind of this top banner, there's 5 distinct actions that I wanted to focus on. There's the Take Action section, and this is broken down then. If you click on Take Action, you'll go across the left-hand side into each of these specific actions. They're organized by the levers of political will. Let's just say you really wanted to learn about lobbying Congress. So I'm going to click on that one. And then lobbying Congress specifically has in the Action Center kind of a Learn It section, a Prepare, a Plan, a Do It, and then a follow-up or an after section. And each of these themes along the left-hand side is organized that way. And then scroll down to monthly actions and guest speakers. Right here under group actions, you can see the current month's speaker, the actions. You can see the action sheet. This sheet actually is where we house how to join. It's got the login information and all of that. You can see previous prior month links and recordings and upcoming ones as they get populated, but that would be the main location here. So if you wanted to find out about anything that you want to get involved in, these are thematically broken out, from pitching an editorial to hosting a movie screening to getting active with getting a local resolution. They're all hopefully right there at your fingertips to help walk you through the process. And I heard Stuart ask a great question in their breakout room. All of what I'm going to show you so far is available to anyone. You don't have to have a community handle. So even if you don't have a user profile yet, this is available. It's public facing. It's not hidden or protected information. I'll go to the last little section at the end to show what is, but this is all available. The Resource Center. So that's, if you click on the top resource button, all of this in the Resource Center you can think of as directed outward. So if you want to have a flyer, if you want to have a presentation to give, if you want to have any kind of thank you card, business card, other forms of correspondence that are kind of printable, this would be in the Resource Center. We also have our logos, our photos of our national conferences, you name it. Let's say you want to know about the PowerPoint presentation. So I'm going to click that. And especially for this, you can see everyone can automatically access a version of the intro slide deck. You can train yourself. It connects you with our presenters team. If you go to the guided notes section, this is just a really helpful way to find out more about the resources that we have at your disposal as a volunteer. The Learning Center, again, this is all public facing still. This is kind of, I guess, the domain that I keep updated especially. You can see across the top is our new volunteer training offerings, 1, 2, 3, intro call, climate advocate training, and now the core volunteer training program. Below that, though, is the CCU offerings. And this gets updated every week. It's always kind of most current. And you can see what I was referring to, that dividend question that Ula asked was excellent. And you can find out how to join our weekly CCU topic by clicking on any of these themes. And then essentially you can even add it to your calendar right there. Let's say you also wanted to know more about communications and you can't attend a live CCU training. Well, then just click on that communications button and you can see all the other hosts of lessons that we've offered in the past. They're all archived. You can listen to calls about how to have better conversations with political topics. You can talk about the moral roots of why people are liberal or conservative. If you want to know more about, talking to specific groups of people, they're all kind of in this communications lesson. So that's the learning section. It's deeply expansive. Deb asks a great question about past week's training. That's often a very frequent question. I'll go back to the home page of the Learning Center. If you want to go to the most recent trainings, they're all uploaded here. If you see the recent trainings link, that tab right there will take you right to it. I'll show you in live time, but I'm in a PowerPoint right now. So here's the section that is kind of private or behind closed doors. Everyone, when you sign in for Community with your own profile, gets your own handle. So here's my ugly mug with my login information and my about me. You can set your privacy as much or as little as possible as you're interested in under the settings. You can also change your photo, your background image. I used to be a canoe instructor, so that's a paddling scene in the background. You also have your own buddy drive where you can share photos or resources with groups that you've used and uploaded for others to use and share as well. You can join groups. I'll get into those in a bit. You can chat with each other. You can have friends, you name it. So that's your profile section. And let's highlight also really quick that forum. So if you are interested in joining any of these forum discussions, just click on the Connect button and then click down to Forum. And you can see across forum, there's a whole host of topics from headlines to general discussion to thematic discussions going on. This is a screen share, so you can't see all of them. But if you're following along again in community.citizensclimatelobby.org, go to Connect and then Forum to really dive in deep. And you can even subscribe to topics to automatically have them email you updates as they come up. The last thing I'll just highlight here, especially for new volunteers, is the Action Team Directory. If you want support for building out your presentations, if you want support for having engagement with maybe the outdoor industry or the young adults in your life or a specific faith background or health or agriculture, you name it, here's the group that's here for you. So if your kind of interest cuts local chapter focus, the Action Team Directory can be reached by clicking on Connect and then scrolling down to Action Team. And then each of these has an active kind of participatory driven thematic group. It's overwhelming. Don't join any of them unless you want to. There's certainly enough to get lost in here for a long time. But it's a lot of current and relevant discussions happening if you really care about, for example, a specific topic like national security. The last thing I'll just highlight is our events tab, highlight of the Google Calendars. You can integrate this with your own calendar if you happen to use Google. There's also links to our regional conferences and our upcoming DC Lobby Day, or in November, our Congressional Education Day here. And also in the upper right corner, if you can follow my mouse, Stuart, the question about searchability again, you can go and click on this magnifying glass here. And the biggest thing is new volunteers. I'm guessing most of you have already done this, but if you click on this new volunteer button, it'll direct you to a whole host of other resources as well. Is clearly kind of the first stop shop for anyone in your positions or really even earlier in your involvement. But this really is all about helping you find your group. Here's the introductory videos, our values again. Here's where you can follow us on Facebook or our blog, or even get CCU reminder emails if you want. You can start practicing some of the skill sets. One thing that I think is actually really helpful that we've put together is a glossary. If you get overwhelmed with all the random acronyms that are thrown at you at times, this is kind of trying to really address that. There's definitely also a lot of kind of understanding around communities, tutorials. The last thing I'll highlight on community is help. So there's a bunch of tutorials, links again to staff and regional coordinator contacts. Here's how to contact people if you notice anything not working or hard to find in community. And this again is at the very bottom. If you scroll down to that black banner, it's your bottom footer. The last thing, if you're from the old era where we had Community 1.0, you can see there's this little mailbox kind of looking icon. And if you click on that, it'll also direct you to here. And there's also a little window that brings you to the very top of the page. So again, the community accounts you have to apply for. This is a great question that Dee asks. The way to actually register a profile, right now I'm signed in as Brett Cease, as you can see here. but would be under this top bar right here. It should say either log in, where if you are already registered, you can just type in your username and password, or it should say register right here. And that process is pretty straightforward. You just kind of enter your name and your password and basically send that off. It needs to be approved by HQ, but hopefully within the day or two, it should be sent back. And again, what we're going to do to close tonight is a final mini group activity to talk about our favorite features of Community. And then we're actually going to transfer to the partner action plans. And again, I'll actually put this in the chat window as well. You can start seeing this kind of link. If you just go to bit.ly/CCL partners, all one word, that's the link. This is what I'm going to have us all fill out at the end of our sessions every night. And again, the three factors behind why we're partnering up is that, you know, we want to help each other set specific and measurable short-term and long-term goals. We want to make sure to also have a chance to jump in and provide that support for kind of a larger community gathering. And we also want to celebrate our achievements as we accomplish them as new volunteers. And so, you know, what we're going to do is provide this framework through the Partner Action Plan. And at this point, you know, here's what they look like. Here's kind of the initial, it's a simple kind of 3-screen thing, your background, your biggest takeaway and feedback. If you can give me your honest thoughts every week about what you think went well, what you'd like to see differently, or what you wish had been done differently or covered. And then lastly, what is your goal? So specifically tonight, you know, it's kind of a low-hanging fruit. Maybe your goal's, you know, registering for Community if you don't have a password yet, or you know, listening to your most important webinar on the Learn Center that you haven't had a chance to tune into yet. But if we can kind of help achieve these goals for each other and really have the chance to jump in and emphasize how important it is to, you know, have kind of both short-term and stretch goals, or those that seem a little bit beyond our immediate reach, I think we're much more successful as climate advocates in achieving, you know, kind of growing into these roles like Debbie was saying, that we ourselves really didn't even imagine before having an opportunity presented to us. So with that, I wanted to thank everyone for your time. Again, here's the website. If you're interested in going to find out more about Core Volunteer Training, it's just under Community and then Learn. I can show you again how to get there in a bit. My email is provided as well. That's simply just brett@citizensclimate.org. So if you have any questions after tonight's you know, webinar, you can email me here. And I wanted to take the time to thank you. Feel free to unmute and sign off and stay on if you have questions. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thanks.